Once again, welcome to all the participants. Yeah. So let me begin with just an overview of the program. What are we planning to do in this 4 sessions? Okay. In the first session, we are going to typically give you an overview. Probably today's session will be the only session where there'll be a lot more theory as in compared to the rest of the 3 sessions, because merits programs are designed in such a way that most of the theoretical concepts, inputs, everything is given, copious notes is given much before the session starts, and you have a lot of pre-reading material. And we lay emphasis on the activity, more of the practical exercises, so that you are able to, so it becomes very important, in fact, that you should be reading before you come for the session, so that you are able to learn faster, and you are able to actually then do these practical breakout exercises. All right. So that's one important point. So I re-emphasize that whenever Merit sends you a lot of material, videos, exercises, please go through them before you come for the session. Now, in the first session, what we are going to do is set the context in terms of what is competent, what are those fundamentals, then what are some of the factors, both external and internal, which impact or influence compensation. Then we move on to the components of a compensation system, because if you want to really design a salary structure, then you will need to understand what are the components of a compensation system. Just like, you want to understand a machine, you need to understand the components, right? So likewise, so we will be talking about the components, because the compensation strategy of an organization cannot be copied. Now, a lot of you were talking about, different industries. So every industry has a compensation strategy. It could be a performance strategy. It could be a high retention strategy. And this is decided or based on their context, their, organization's life cycle, and their market, factors, because the market factors are very, very dynamic in this kind of a VUCA world. So the compensation strategy is very, very specific and individual to every organization. We would be talking about it. And we will also be talking about certain motivational theories. And one of them, which is very, very important, is the equity theory. Because fundamentally, when we talk about compensation, we are actually talking about what? Fairness and equity. That is the most important thing. Will you agree or not? That compensations has to be equitable. Equitable means fair, right? It has to be seen as well, because the perception as well. So we will actually look at how can it be, and what are some of the things which organization do to ensure that they are fair and equitable. So these are some of the things we'll be covering in session 1. Thereafter, then we will move on to session 2 in the next session. So we will be talking more about how do you establish internal equity. We will be talking about 3 kinds of equity: internal, external, and individual. So the internal equity is all about, how do we actually pay salaries within the organization? Are we paying on their job worth? So how do we do that? What is the technique we use? So we actually do practically 2 kinds of job evaluation techniques. They are job grading, which is a qualitative method, and point method, which is a quantitative method, which Hay, Mercer, Hewitt, everybody uses. Okay. So the point method, which is similar to the Hayes method or Mercer method. So where we will be using statistical techniques like correlation and regression. You will be using data to do all this. How do you actually then, give numerical values to the jobs, which is a great, quantitative technique and a very objective method of assessing the worth of the job. So this is, and then how do you design a salary structure? How do you design, depending on what the organization needs, what kind of a nature of industry it is, whether you will make a narrow band or whether you'll have a broad band. So these are all things which we'll be talking in the session 2. And in session 3, we are going to then look at external equity. Some of you wanted to know job evaluation. Some of you wanted to know about external equity. How do I actually pay fair compared to the market? So actually, then how do you decide what jobs will I look at? How do you look at market data? What are some of the companies I will take? How do you do the entire statistical treatment? We'll look at actually using the statistical analysis, the percentile, decile, because some of you said we use Mercer's data. So how do you actually look at when a Mercer will say, hey, you are at a, P78 and what is it? P8. So how do you decide for what are these things? Percentiles, deciles, quartiles. So we will actually be doing with a lot of data, all these things. Then in session 4, then we are going to talk about the individual equity. That means when two individuals are working in the same position, doing, having the same JD, but one of them works over and above. So what are some of the things you do, or what we actually call it as, different kinds of variable pays. So we look at the short term, long term, middle term, and then what are the design considerations which go into designing a variable pay plan. All right. And then how do you actually design that? And then how do you communicate those programs? So then we are also be talking about budgeting. This is what we talk about, employee cost to revenue. If you are an HR head, your managing director is definitely going to talk about, hey, what is my ECR ratio? That means, because his profitability of an organization is depending on the ECR ratio. Now, if your ECR ratio, that is employee cost to revenue, is very high, so it impacts your profitability. So how do you actually ensure, and what is the kind of range you need to look at? So how will you benchmark, and what is that you're going to benchmark? So these are some of the things we will look at in session 4, and then we'll talk about the total reward approach as well. Okay. Once again, welcome to all the participants.